a free-flowing conversation. I've got questions to ask. I can certainly get into coaching mode, but all of the knowledge and the stories and the lessons learned to be shared are all sitting here on the stools, which I'm going to sit as well soon. So I'm going to try to get as much as possible for them to have a natural conversation. We'll take 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A afterwards. So I'm going to try to have a conversation here. And what else? And then, all right, I think I said enough then. All right, so, and then give me a signal if it's not engaging, right? I can try to read. I'm a little bit okay reading faces because I'm an engineer, so that's not our strong suit. But if things are boring, I don't know, just give me some sort of hand signal, and I'll work things up a little bit. But don't let them say it, just me. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to relinquish the mic, hopefully for the rest of the night. And I guess we're going to start in order. Oh, by the way, everyone up here, including Arik, we all have 4-letter names. I just thought that was, it must mean something, right? Is there something in some mysticism that says that that's a good sign of things to come tonight? All right, with that in mind, Adam.
So my name is Arik. If you don't understand my accent, I can get a translator, so hopefully you can all understand me. I own a digital e-commerce agency. We work with enterprise e-commerce brands to accelerate their growth online. We provide design and development and marketing services to them. We've been in business since 2015, and I'm the only owner. I started the business over $500 in capital, pretty much by myself. And today we're 11 full-time employees. We're going to be 15 by the end of the year, and we're going to do about 1.7 million this year. And yeah, we're lucky.
So I'm Dara Bortman, and that's my husband over there, Mark. And so we never really meant to be business owners. It kind of fell in our lap. So many years ago, for years we've been interested in renewable energy and solar energy, and we had the opportunity to live in Costa Rica for a year, and we were lucky enough to find an amazing man down there who had also moved down recently, who'd been in the solar industry for decades and decades. Mark he did like a Vulcan mind meld dump into Mark's head while we lived down there, and then we moved back up 13 years ago. Mark had the opportunity to go talk to a lady who was interested in a solar pool heating system, and after one conversation she said, okay, I'll take it. And so he went back to the company who had given him her name and said, okay, she'll take it. When are you going to come and install it? And they said, we don't want anything to do with it, you do it. So he came home that night and he said, I think I sold my first solar pool heating system. We didn't have a name, we didn't have anything. And the idea at that point was, he was a teacher in the Philadelphia School District, and he figured it would be a part-time job and something good to do for the world, help kind of transition people to solar energy. And over the years, we were lucky enough, it got busier and busier. And his teaching in Philly got more and more stressful and frustrating, unfortunately. And after about 7 years ago, we both kind of jumped in full time, and now there's about 11, 12 of us. We made the Inc. 5000 list for 2 years in a row. We're at about 3 million in sales each year. And we basically install mostly residential, some small commercial solar energy systems in the New Jersey and Pennsylvania, greater Philadelphia area. We still do some solar pool heating, not so much solar water heating, and a lot of PV now, which wasn't even around when he started it. So that's us.
Hi, I have another hard name. I'm Orna Azulay. I own by myself Abington Speech Pathology Services, which started out in 1999, about 2 months after I graduated my graduate degree. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. Being an employee was almost like saying to someone, okay, whatever, loser. So I was formed and channeled into being an entrepreneur. So I took speech pathology and made it into a business, which normally isn't a business. As far as usually what speech pathologists do is maybe see some clients privately, maximum 6-7 clients a day, and they go home, which is great. And that's kind of what I thought maybe that was my vision initially. So I got out of graduate school and I had to support my husband and I. He was in dental school, and that's very expensive. We kind of paid for our own school, so that was very expensive. And right after I finished my fellowship, 9 months of fellowship and was licensed, besides working at a hospital, I also subcontracted for another agency in the afternoons. And about a month or two later, I realized I'm making as much in the 3-4 hours after work as I'm doing 8 hours at the hospital. So, just being driven to make more money, I decided that I'm going to subcontract myself out directly. So I started to call different hospitals and nursing homes to see if they can take me as part of their pool kind of shortage. And that took off, and I started to get more and more, I was needed more than I could send myself. And then I felt like that's a shame. I should have more of me. And that's kind of what happened. I'll tell you more when we get to the full story, but it basically took off. So today it's basically a rehab staffing agency. We contract out not only speech pathologists, but also occupational physical therapists, school psychologists, special education teachers, vision and hearing support teachers. We work in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, now New York, and Southern California. We have a clinic. So it definitely grew. It's definitely challenging on my own. Like I said, I'm on my own. So TAB gave me a lot in regards to, I can say, get advice I want to hear, not from my husband. So, so basically, it's definitely a big plus, and that's why I decided this is a great panel to be on. So I'll tell you more later.
I'm Mike Risich with Bolt-On Technology. We are a software solutions provider for the automotive aftermarket. We build workflow technology, so we don't do anything new car dealer, and we don't do anything in the collision space. So if you take your automobile to a place like Joe's, at Joe's Automotive, that's our customer. And sometimes he calls you guys and you're in a meeting and he's got your car on the lift and it's just wasting his day, and we don't get back to him to tell him that it's time to either do the repairs or not. That's what we help solve. We didn't invent this thing, we just use it. It's called text messaging. Maybe you've seen it or heard it somewhere. But imagine getting a text message in the middle of the day saying, you know, your car needs brakes or tires and it's going to be $300 to fix, approve, or call. We help them facilitate that. Company was founded in 2009. There's a pretty long story to say that it really didn't start until 2011. Since then, we are a 5-time Philly 100 winner. We are a 3-time Philly 5000. We've scaled from me to 45 plus, and from $1 bootstrapped to this year 8+ million.
All right. Well, you've answered like half of my questions already.
I'm done.
No, I was like, can you guys hear me without a mic? Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this morning's conference, one of the keynote speakers was Bill Magnucci Jr., who's the CEO of DeBruno Brothers, which is like 3rd generation family owned. But he described this moment of that he says every entrepreneur has, of like falling to his knees or curling up in a fetal position, you know, realizing that something's not going right. In his case, it was a mostly cash business, and there was a lot of cash missing, and he had no internal controls, and the lessons that we learned the hard way. So, knowing how hard it is, like, what was part of your decision process to actually do it, or when you hit those hard moments, to keep doing it, right? To do it to this day, right? You're all seeing, you know, good levels of success, but I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision and an easy path. Why?
I'll start. I'll piggyback on what you said. I am a 3rd generation entrepreneur myself, and had very similar experience. My last actual quote job. I just couldn't take it anymore, right? It wasn't what I wanted to do. I was a software engineer, so I was writing software, which I enjoyed, but I didn't really enjoy for the clients that I was at, and so it was time to leave. And so I knew this about myself, and I just kept saying, I have this idea, and I can keep going. You know, the fetal position occurs. Right? Anybody that's an entrepreneur and is struggling, and that's just about all of us, it does occur. I can also honestly tell you that I have the biggest cheerleader in the world, my wife. You know, she stood behind me the whole time, propped me up, maybe smacked me around a few times, she is Italian, and told me, go, get it, you know, you can do it. Because if you don't, we're going to get even worse trouble. But there's that belief inside that you're doing something right, and you can see it. Maybe it's not at volume, maybe it's just one instance, but that one instance gives you the insight that it's going to be a second and a third, and so.
I feel that, again, being pushed to being an entrepreneur, I just feel like I like to lead. I like to make sure everything's happening the way they're supposed to. I can't wait for slow people. I have no patience. So I feel like I have to get things going. I think that, you know, you start with nothing. I started with nothing. I basically used my paycheck to pay the next person, and I hope that, you know, in time I will have a check in the mail. And you definitely have those fetal position moments, but the other moments make up for it. The freedom, you know, what we say is we pay for our freedom. We can do what we want when we want it. We are putting in the long hours for our own success instead of somebody else's. So I definitely, you know, see that plus and what we do. I also have a great cheerleader. I call him, besides his real name, I call him a MacGyver because he's able to do anything. He sees I'm stressed, I tell him this is my problem, he goes, no problem. Like, okay. I go to sleep, I watch some shows, I wake up in the morning and he fixed it. So, and that's kind of how we got incorporated. Basically, I was calling around different hospitals and nursing homes at the time because I worked with Kempler Hospital and that was what I knew to do best. And I said, hey, I'd like to, you know, I know you're short on people, I'm here. And they said, well, we don't contract out with individual therapists, we use agencies. Okay, and then the next call was to the intermediate unit, and they said the same thing. The next call was to the district, and they said the same thing. I'm like, all right, I guess I can't do this. And he said, why? He came back from dental school that evening, so why? I said, they all want to be agencies. I'm not an agency. So what's an agency? So he said, you know, corporations. So, all right. And by, I don't know, a week later, we were Abington Speech Pathology, and we piggybacked on Abington Hospital's name, basically. They still confuse us until this day, which is great. But basically, and then I called the same people back, and one of them remembered my name because Orna Azulay is not, you know, Mary Smith. And I said, hi, I'm calling from Abington Speech Pathology. She goes, and your name? I said, Orna Azulay. She goes, didn't you call me last week? And I said, yeah, I'm an agency now. So she said, right, and she, until today, actually works with me. She was a supervisor, and now she consults with me and gets me contracts for percentages. So she said, all right, just for your basically chutzpah, I'll thank you. And we started. She gave me tidbits, and then as I proved myself, she gave me more and more, and now we have 42 people with them. So it, you know, it takes that drive, that little bit of push, and somebody to believe in you. And that's kind of a little bit my story.
So, I want to continue, but you said something, and part of my job is to point out tweetable moments if you're tweeting, which I highly encourage. Did I get it right? You said we pay for our freedom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Write that down if you're taking it.
So the question was why do you keep doing it?
Why did you start, or why do you? I mean, we heard some of your story about why I started, but why do you keep doing it?
Yeah, it's nice. We have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, so we've been able to go to all their track meets and field hockey games. But we also work 7 days a week, 80 hours a week for the last 7 years. I mean, it's a lot of work. and you never leave it. So I guess the why for us is it really the work matches our values. Like, so we are installing solar energy systems. We're also very involved in clean energy and environmental advocacy work. So that's important to us, value-wise. So with each solar energy system that we install, we kind of feel like we're saving the world one solar energy system at a time. So that really helps. If you love what you're doing, if it means something to you, if it's adding value to your customers' lives and your life, then you can do it, and then you can keep doing it. If it wasn't something that we cared about, we wouldn't still be doing it.
My story is probably a little bit different, because when I originally started my agency, we were just building traditional websites, and the thing for me, it wasn't really waking up every morning, just building websites for customers. The moment that changed for me and where I found my purpose in the business was when I met a client in Texas, middle of Texas, ranch, middle of nowhere. She sold Western women's apparel, and she was a 10-year-old business, doing about $450,000 in revenue, so not a lot for a 10-year-old company. And then within 12 months, we took it to 1.8 million. And I used to log in the back end of the website every day, just looking at all the orders coming through, and then she used to call me and tell me, thank you so much, and knowing that I could have that much of an effect on a business and see them grow and see them appreciate it, that was when I just decided to change the whole business. And I think the thing that wakes me up every day is the fact that I know what pieces to fix for them that they don't know, and that's the part that I enjoy the most. And you know, when you look at a growth curve of your profit and loss every year and you see it go up, down, up, it tells a big story of you've got to crawl, you've got to walk, and then you've got to run. And I would say the biggest thing for me is, at times you want to quit, and sometimes you think you haven't got to figure it out. But I think the biggest thing is you've got to go with your gut, and you've got to trust yourself, and you've got to believe in yourself. And I don't think there's anyone in the room who can really say that there's moments where you are not sure if it's going to work out. But I think the biggest thing it comes down to is things take time to figure out. You've got to learn, and we don't all have the answers right, and that's what part of mistakes mean. And you know, for me, waking up every day and seeing how much of an impact we can make on the businesses is really what I enjoy most.
So I hear a little bit about, you know, alignment to a personal vision, that, you know, there's something, that a core value that we have, that we believe in. You know, in your case, there was this aha moment. By the way, you need to do my website. That's a great story. But anybody else have like those aha moments that sort of like fuel your passion to keep doing this?
I feel that, so a couple of years ago, I decided to expand what I've been doing with basic contracting and just placing therapists, and decided to start diving into more of the telepractice, teletherapy, getting therapy to those that can't get to the therapist, or the therapist just doesn't exist where they live. And now we're helping schools and patients that couldn't get therapy. We just signed a school in upstate New York. They put an ad last January for a therapist, and they have not even one call. And we're seeing, you know, 52 kids as of next week, like boom. So it's amazing. I think, you know, we're being helpful to those that need help. We have customers across the globe, kids of families that are sent for work reasons, but they have children or special needs, for example, that need services, and they have nowhere to go. I spoke to a guy in Malaysia. They had to fly to Bangkok to get a speech evaluation at the hospital, and then he's getting therapy from our therapist at their house through the computer. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, you know, so it's really cool. American kids who live abroad with their families, and they're able to utilize services we provide here that you and I can just go and get. So that's definitely rewarding.
We aligned around a why, and it became our core values. And I call them EFT, right? That we're committed to excellence. We want to be fun to work with. And you got to be a great team player. And since we're in Philly, everybody's going to get the joke. I can tell you, Alan Iverson cannot work at Bolton. He's not a great team player. So those things have become real relevant and real important. It's how we evaluate who we're hiring. It's how we evaluate how they're performing, whether there's a raise or even sometimes when we have to let go of some people. I like to say that at Bolton, we don't lose customers. Like we're really focused on that we're in the people business. We just happen to make software that caters to automotive shops who do mechanical repairs. But really it's about the relationship we have with that owner, and that if we do make a mistake, because we are all human, that we can call and apologize, take ownership of it, and offer a resolution. And when I listen to the calls that my support team does or my sales team does, and I'm hearing those things echoed, it makes me feel really rewarded that those values are not only just something that are on a board that's hanging up in a hallway, but you can actually see them and hear them and actually taking place within the business. So I think the other thing that happened for us was when we hit the 50th state, so we finally got a shop in all 50 states. Of course, now we have all 50 states, every province in Canada, every US territory. We have 2 shops on Guam. Makes tech support really interesting. 14 hours is difficult, but we even have a few South American English-speaking shops. And when you start to think about the volume of people, so in our day-to-day lives, we use Microsoft, all of us, right? Outlook and PowerPoint and Excel. And to think that we have this volume of people that are using our technology to actually do their job, that's extremely rewarding as well.
So the first, everything I'm getting here would excite me to become an entrepreneur. So let's take a quick minute. What was one of the first lessons learned, or the first big mistake that that might scare someone off from being an entrepreneur?
Nothing happens at the speed or the timeline that you believe it will or want it to. In 3 weeks I'm going to have this done, I'm going to have this contract. 3 months later, in 3 more weeks, I'm going to have this contract. That's probably one of the really biggest. You do need to have the patience, you do need to have the diligence, the drive, the motivation. You need to have the persistence, because if 3 weeks in one day you didn't have it, you shouldn't really sometimes just pull the plug. That's probably on the flip side, some of the biggest lessons learned. But you don't make those decisions, especially early on in the process.
I've learned from my husband, who's probably the most laid-back person you'll ever meet in the world, that things go wrong, but it's not the end of the world. Like, keep it in perspective. And because we treat our customers right and we have great relationships with them, if things go wrong, you admit it and you fix it, and then we have 100% happy customers. It's not that nothing ever went wrong, it's that we fix things and we admit it and fix it and make it right and make our customers happy no matter what. We always say that our specialty is the highest quality installations and the highest quality interactions with our customers. So my goal when I'm hiring anybody is I'm not just looking for an employee who has the skills that we need. I'm looking for mostly an employee who has the reliability, the integrity, the conscientiousness that we need. Because that's really, you can teach someone a skill, you can't teach them to be conscientious, to be a team-oriented, that type of stuff. So when you have the right people on the team, no matter who our customers call and end up talking to, whether it's one of the guys at their house, the team, the installer team, or Mark, or our operations manager, or when they call the office and talk to our office manager, Sarah, every interaction is excellent, and that's the goal, and kind and respectful, and things sometimes go wrong, but if you have that trust and that relationship with your customers, then it's not the end of the world, and you can fix it. You can fix anything.
I think one of the things that used to make me fearful was never being ready to grow. I always used to expect things to be perfect, no matter what, we'd be ready to scale to the next level. And I think one of the things that a lot of owners have, which is what Mark even says, if you strive for perfection, you're never ever going to grow. Things are never perfect. I think that's one thing as all entrepreneurs, we try and think anytime we're going to go to the next level, things have got to be absolutely perfect, and it's just never going to be like that. We're humans at the end of the day, we make mistakes, and it's just the way it is. We're dealing with systems, processes, daily things that people are not going to follow it the way you expect them to follow it or the way you do it. And I think that's one thing that I had a hard hurdle going over. And as soon as I let go and started to look at things on the top level and tackle each one at a time from a department to department perspective, I started to realize things could grow and things are not going to be perfect, and that's just the way it is. I think the biggest thing is at the core, which is one of the things we talk about with our company, is you've got to have the client's best interest at heart. And if you don't have the client's best interest at heart, that you don't care about their business, then you shouldn't be in business. I think that's just one thing. One value we do have at the company is never settle. And I think that's one thing for me when I was growing, that never made me quit, was I never wanted to settle. And the moment you do settle is the moment you should get out of business. And I think that's my take on it.
You guys are so full of, like, I keep thinking of questions. But let's move on to another subject, because you guys started to go in this direction. Let's talk about, like, starting to build your team and those moments where you realize, I've got to start delegating. Now, Orna, you're a practitioner, and now all of a sudden you're putting someone else in front of the customer. You're a staffing agency. How do you get okay with delegating, and how do you build that initial team?
So for me, I basically got to a point that I couldn't be everywhere at the same time and do everything. I needed someone. So I needed a director that could be another me, but I couldn't afford one completely. So I came up with a plan that my director would give me 20 hours out of the week for me, to emulate what I do, and 20 hours she'll be clinical, so I could bill for her time and pay for her salary. So that was the way I thought, a little bit out of the box to get it done. Until today, my directors all do billable time. It definitely helps, and it doesn't pay for their salary anymore because it's higher than what it used to be, but at least it keeps them also clinical. It keeps them realizing what our therapists need when they need support and what our clients need when they need support, and they're out in the field. So I think that's really, really good. I basically picked out of all of my therapists back then, I looked at who shines. And for me, the person who shined was the person that complained the least, did the most. Every time we had something, she lives in Westchester, and I would say I have a nursing home in Glenside. It's urgent, the therapist isn't coming. All right. Of course, money was an incentive. She's like, how much is it for? I can buy a TV. Yep, I'll do it. She was pretty much a little bit out of school, but she did it. She never complained. Her motto was always, it is what it is. What am I gonna do? Complain about it? I'm like, perfect, I love you. It's an unusual female trait, I'll take you. So she shined, and when I needed a director, I brought her in for a meeting. She thought I was gonna fire her for some reason. She didn't understand why I'm calling her in for a meeting. And she's been with me ever since. So she's been with me as a clinical director since 2005, but as a contractor from 2002. And we call ourselves work spouses. She literally now knows what I would say. So initially I held her hand. We did everything together. She saw me negotiate. She now negotiates. It's hilarious. She used to never negotiate. Now she goes and buys a car and goes like, I brought them down to this and this. I'm like, yes, my baby is growing up. So definitely it's really great. After we grew out of her having enough time, we brought in another person that she knew. Again, it's a lot of trust. So I think people that are running it for you as you want to do it, you have to be able to trust them. So that ends up being that people that know people that you know. You don't want to bring them into your house per se, just out of nowhere. It needs to be somebody that you trust. So that was my little trick. I looked at who complains the least, does the most, kind of deals with things as they come, able to solve them, and is also open to learning from me. And that's kind of what she was, and it worked out really well.
I'll echo using your network, especially with the early team members. So at Bolton, we've had team members for 7 years, and this year we celebrated the 7-year, the 6-year, 3 5-years. So being able to have that trust and work with people that you enjoy working with, but more importantly, you know they're working. You know, you give them the swim lane and the goal. And you say, I really don't care whether you hug this side or you hug that side, I just need you to get across the finish line. And I'll be back. At Bolton, I can tell you the last 4 years, I've traveled probably over 120 trips, 2-3 times a month, that kind of averages out. Trust me, my wife is keeping score. And every time I go home and say it's going to be less, it's another lie that's out there, right? So, but we did very similar things, right? Not the first team member, which is ironic, but the second team member I had worked with previously. The 5th team member who was a team leader I had worked with previously. So these relationships are long, and there's an understanding. And especially when we were in the beginning, we were literally working around a table like this, and Mike was there, so he can nod and say yes. And we had one telephone, right? There's like 5 or 6 of us. And somebody would answer, oh, Bolton, support, hold on. And we just pass the phone down to Ken, because Ken was in support. Oh, you need to talk to Mike? Hold on. Pass the phone back. Why do we need more than one phone? Because we all had our cell phones, and then we just sat where the phone rang. But there's just some fun memories. But as we expanded, we grew. That trust, being able to delegate and elevate. I remember one time working with Mike, and he said, you need to create a stop doing list, right? And so that's the way you delegate, right? Because now you're not going to no longer do it. At the time, I was still writing a lot of the software, and so I'm in this session with Mike, and he's coaching me, and I'm typing, and he's like, you can't do that anymore. And I said, I know. Keep going. And like 3 weeks later, I came back and he says, oh, you got a new laptop. And I said, yeah, it doesn't have the IDE on it. He's like, so you can't write software anymore? And I said, right. He's like, well, that's one way to make it so that you don't write the software anymore and delegate it to somebody. But it's true. You have to delegate and elevate and set them up for success. Because especially at a young company age, you need the wins. You really need, especially the personal wins. Your example, the person who did 20 hours, she needed to be successful at those other 20 hours versus when she was building.
We haven't been as successful at delegating, although we have amazing staff. I will say that I was lucky to find a tool to help me with hiring. Actually, from my last job, I worked for a state farm agent in one of my prior lives, and they had a great tool called Career Builder, which is an online tool that basically helps you manage incoming resumes and has a personality assessment you can send out to people, and a math and verbal assessment that you can send out to people. So it's kind of gives you a good idea of what you can pick their traits like conscientiousness, teamwork, like that kind of thing. If you want to focus on them, that really helped me kind of zero in on some resumes, some people that we ended up hiring initially as our first installers, and they stayed with us for 4 years. So they were great. They both left at this point for other opportunities, but we still are very close with both of them. Actually, one of them, but that's a longer story. And our biggest hire, which was the hardest hire, was our operations manager. When you get to a point where you just need another manager, that's a big step because it's a salary, it's a big investment, and it's scary. And we also hired someone that we knew, So a guy that Mark had worked with in the past who had had his own electrician shop and his own solar shop actually in the past, and then gone on and done other things and then ended up coming to us. So the network and the trust between with the person that you've known a long time definitely comes into play with that a lot.
I went through, probably a lot of growth last year, so delegation has probably been the biggest challenge for me. I think what I've learned the most is that delegation goes hand in hand with the people you hire. So if you hire junior level people, you're going to have to delegate more. If you hire senior level people who have been in the space, it's probably going to be a lot more of a win-win for you, and that's what I've learned. I think the key thing with delegation is also having the systems and the processes documented. I was one of those guys who didn't document everything before someone came on board, so you can imagine I was lighting my fires every single time and questions back and forth coming all the time. So what I was going to say to you with delegation is document everything. If you're doing a role, document it now. It's going to be way easier when you bring on that person to train them, get them up to speed, and we're not going to be constantly asking you questions. That's the big thing I've learned. But I would say the biggest thing I've heard everyone say here is trust. Trust is hard. It's especially hard when you know that someone isn't the most experienced to do the job well. And that's kind of the hard part to let go. For me, I would say, making sure you've got your processes down is going to help you a lot. That's what we're seeing.
If I could do like 30 seconds of coaching and make an observation. So, and I don't know everyone equally as well, but if I start at this end and work my way down, I see we're probably an increasing order of control freaking, right? I'm probably the most out of my thing. Dara, it sounds like, and I think by the time we get to the end, Mike, you're probably the least. But the other observation I want to make is that seems to be proportional to revenues. The larger revenues seem to have gotten past being the control freak, and that's an observation I want to make, right? Is that those who delegate more quickly, who are willing to not, who see that they're like, what do they say in TAB, like working below your pay grade, right? The people who take those financial risks, and we're going to talk about money in a second, but the people who take those financial risks and invest in people and ultimately make themselves comfortable with delegators of businesses that grow more quickly or a bit bigger. So that's free coaching. So on me tonight. So let's talk about money. Because look, all of these risks you're taking, have financial benefits, but there was a ton of financial risk. Yeah. Okay. You didn't see that. So we're going to add a couple financial questions, and I'm going to take questions from the audience. But a little bit about the financial risks that you took. Was it your own money, your friends and family? Did you go into debt? Are you whole now? I mean, or have you made the others whole? Who wants to talk about money? Who's the brave?
So I think for me, the first year of the business, sold my car, maxed out my wife's credit card, lent money from my mom, and lent money from someone we didn't even know. And that was scary. I would say the thing that got me out of it was, again, just trusting my instinct. The biggest thing I could tell you about the money side is making sure your business model makes sense. We had a fixed price model where our revenues were like this. We weren't stable, we couldn't hire consistently, and we weren't growing. And our lead funnel was not that great. I was the only one doing sales, plus HR, plus finance, plus project management. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen now for us, we're about 75% recurring revenue, about 25% fixed, so we've got stability. I would say making sure your business model is figured out early and quick, because we figured it out probably 3 years in, and we still haven't figured it out, but we've got some stability there. I would say making sure your revenue model is diversified to the point where you can deliver value, deliver quality, and actually continue growing. And that's my statement.
like I said earlier, I really started from zero. I just came out of school, we were living on student loans, and my husband was in dental school. When I started with as minimal overhead as I could. So I worked out of the house. I had just a separate line for the business, so when it rained, everyone had to be quiet and say, Abington speech, can I help you? I basically, like I said, I worked clinically a lot of hours, and I would just like get the call, run outside, answer the call, return an email, do this, do that. I wore many, many hats. I was able then to take what I earned, because I worked enough to be able to pay the next person. And kind of that grew, one after the other after the other. When I saw some private patients that came to the house, then I wanted a family, so I had a baby and a dog upstairs with the babysitter, and I was in the basement running my business. It definitely is not easy. I returned calls from the hospital after delivering the baby. I was still on morphine. I think I was loopy because they said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?"
Life's great.
I feel great. I'm great. Once we grew out of that and were able to make a better living, we then sold that house once my husband finished dental school. We bought a house that had a separate office with a separate space. Again, as minimal overhead as I could. I couldn't rent. I couldn't have a secretary yet. Everything we did in-house. As we grew and could afford it, then we pushed ourselves more. So we got to the point where we were suffocating, and only then we took the next step. Because I've seen businesses around me that open a business and they think they have to have all the smoke and mirrors right away, and they end up collapsing because they're in so much debt before they even start. For me, my debt accrued when I started to grow really fast. Like suddenly I hired 6 therapists. They're all full-time. They all make, I don't know, $8,000 a month. Okay, 8 times 6. I gotta pay. This is now a bigger payroll. I'm not making it and the contract now is late. They're now 30 days. I paid them in 30 days. So it became like such a big juggle from this account to that account to pay them. The one thing I always wanted to do is never not pay my therapist in time. So that's when, I had to go get a line of credit and slowly do that and then transfer that to a loan and then get another line of credit. And the one thing I do have to say is when your business is doing great and you think you don't need any money at all, that's when you should get the line of credit. Because when you need it, it's not fast enough and they don't give it to you. So definitely I learned that. And that has been, so we're still rolling with, debt and lines and this and that, but that's our only income to grow. I don't have financial backing. I never had any financial backing, so it's okay and it's fine. And every once in a while, when I get a panic attack, I say, "All right, that's okay, it's fine, it's good. I'll book a trip, I'll go away, and it's good. I'll think about it later." But I did get to a point where I could leave for 10 days, 2 weeks even, and not call the office. I'll check in by email with one of the directors. All good? Yeah, all good. They run things, they do things, they send out the bills, they collect the money. So got to a good place that I could release some of that and delegate and have some quality time.
We did that too. That was awesome. That was after we hired Vlad. We did very similarly. We've been very conscious of how quickly we grow. We could have grown a lot faster. We could be a lot bigger. We have been we started in our house. My office manager, Sarah, came to my house and worked with me in my living room for 3 years before we moved out. Our garage was our warehouse. Our minivan was Mark's car, for his work car. We used, we talked quietly. The kids and the dog had to be quiet when they came home from school. So we did that. Now we're in an office space. We have a real warehouse, but we've been very careful to grow in a very controlled manner because, I don't want to take over the world. I want to be able to support our family and our employees' families and do good work. That's basically my goal. But we're growing in a very controlled way so that we don't lose control. So we've been very lucky. We haven't had to take out big loans. We've just grown enough slowly so that we've been able to stay ahead of it. But it's tough sometimes.
Bortman is very similar stories. I echo the sentiment, when you don't need the money, talk to the bank. I did the same thing, nights and weekends initially, home basement office. Then I do have 2 business partners in Bolton, and they own and operate 12 tire stores here in Philadelphia market. And my first office was in the side of the garage. Literally in the background, you can hear the air guns going off and the guys working on cars, and I'm taking calls. And we moved from one of their locations to a location that had more space. And we just kept expanding. The business model is big. We are a subscription model, 100%. Our base price, lowest price is $100 a month. You need a lot of shops at $100 a month to start covering payroll. I remember early on our bookkeeper calling and saying, all right, I sent the checks up. It was just me and another guy. One of you can put it in the bank. The other one has to wait until I call. And so I said to Tom, who's still with me, I said, I'll be back. And 4 days later, I came back because I had a fistful of contracts, so now I can put my check in the bank. And I looked at him and I said, that's never going to happen again. Because the last 4 days, I basically didn't eat. You know, you talk about, some people say, bet the farm. I did. I bet everything. I was an engineer here in Philadelphia, working for a consulting firm. I made a nice living. 401k, gone. Kids, college, gone. Every piece of equity I had in the house, gone. Because I believed in it. I believed in it that much. Now it's the reverse. So it does happen. Once you continue to persevere and get through it, I'm very proud of where Bolton's position is today.
I got so many questions, but I want to give it to you. I'll try to repeat the questions, or you can talk loud if you've got that kind of voice. So questions for the panel?
So culture is very important in an organization. What kind of culture does your company exhibit, and how do you facilitate that culture?
I can take that first. So culture is huge for us, and we do it by living through it. So once a month, we have a great kitchen. Mike and Arik have been to our facility. They can attest. We do an all-team breakfast or an all-team lunch. We scatter the team together. We take somebody from marketing, engineering, sales, support, and we say, all right, you guys come up with a menu. The company will pay for all the food, and then you cook it for everybody. Right? So you get to work side by side with somebody who maybe sits clear on the other side of the building. You know nothing about them, and the next thing you know, your kids play soccer, very similar places. So constantly rewarding those things that we see them doing, not just that we hear about, is what myself and the leadership are constantly trying to look for. So we look for those moments to celebrate the culture and try to take care of the other situations.
I can add to that. So, as we've been growing, the culture is obviously important to retain talent. The big thing with us, we're a tech agency, so the expectations are high. They sit at computers all day. It's a high-stress environment, tight deadlines. The one thing that we've implemented is we have a masseuse come once a month to the office, which is a nice thing. And we do a Tuesday and Friday away from home days, so you can work from home Tuesday and Fridays. And we have a weekly lunch. And we're actually hiring a happiness manager. It's my title for a culture manager. And they go stay happy. So once a month we do a special event, whether it's going to fill abundance or doing Spartan racing, like making them really feel like they're part of the culture and team. That's not about work every day. My mindset is work should be fun, it shouldn't be work. And once they realise it is fun, they want to stay there, they want to be part of it, they want to win. And that's kind of what we're seeing happen from the effects of investing in the culture. And I think that starts with the owner. Like, I didn't realise that a long time ago, and when I started to embrace it and see that if I have to spend X amount of money of my net profit each year to make them realise that they appreciate the company and they appreciate me, and they know what they're part of, I think they appreciate it a lot more, and I think the team is going to show that as well.
My operating team are all females, which sometimes I get like, how is it? Is it really like stressful? A lot of women working together. It's actually really great. We do, I do things for them because they run the shift for me and with me. So we do fun things all the time. Cooking classes, Philly games, all kinds of different things. I went to New York, went to a Broadway show. It's easier because we're only like 6 or 7 of us. The team in California, I fly out and take them out and do different activities with them. But yeah, we developed little traditions. So every spring or around Mother's Day, we walk across the street to DSW and I buy them sandals or shoes. They think it's the best job in the world. My accountant thinks I'm crazy. He's like, what is this DSW expense? So, but yeah, it's little things that you do that you care about them and kind of, harvest in your office. It's very important.
Yeah, we're pretty small. There's 3 of us women in the office. So we go out to lunch or breakfast, more often than not. That's what we do together. For the guys, we actually took our whole team to Florida for a conference once. And then a lot of them stayed and went to Disney World afterwards. So we paid for their flights and part of their hotels and stuff like that. That was fun. We could probably do more. The guys are out on roofs every day. Vlad, our operations manager, was very excited because he got to buy food from the Latvian supermarket near his house and make the guys all lunch the other day. And most of them are very picky eaters, so they were not as thrilled about it, but they were all good sports about it. He brought it all in and made a big picnic for them. But we really are like a big family. I kind of think of them, and this probably isn't the best thing, but I think of all the guys on the installer team as my kids. They're all, 20 to 30-year-old guys, so I kind of think of them all as my kids. My son is 20, so, it's a very family-oriented atmosphere. I think they know that we care about them, and I try to keep adding more benefits for them. As time goes on, they get a $100 shoe, not for sandals, for work shoes. Every quarter, the guys get to go and buy new work shoes.
Work shoes.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. It's all how you working in the office. That's right. We try to keep adding new little benefits to just let them know that we care about them. And we take their recommendations too and requests too. If they want to do something, and we'll do it. We all came into Philly. I have to give a shout out to this business. We came into Philly and we did a beer making and beer tasting class, not far from here. No, it was, what was the place?
Alchemist Society.
The Alchemist Society, and I forget what the company was called. Now I have to go look it up. It was really
America
great.
U Brew?
Huh?
America U Brew?
No, it was right near, oh gosh, now it's horrible, I can't remember. We all came down, all the sales guys, the installers, the whole team, the office staff, and it was great. We made a big pot of beer, and she taught us about the different kinds of beer and how to make different kinds of beer. We picked the hops and the barley, and then she made us a batch, bottled it, we picked it up the next month. That was really cool. It was fun.
So food, booze, and footwear.
Yeah. Key to culture.
But the cultural stems, because you guys talked about this informally earlier, but from values. You all have core values and a culture of behaviors that probably come out of your core values, which is something great to talk about, but we'll let you guys ask the questions now.
So, as you develop a business, and you guys have talked about this a little bit, do you really need to start developing systems, right? So you start moving from an entrepreneurial, kind of more freewheeling thing, and I'm going to date myself. Fred Smith, one of the few entrepreneurs to really hunker down and run a tremendous business, realized that UPS could put him out of business at any moment. And he lost all of his key people at some point because they said, hey, this isn't what we signed up for. Why are you being a dick, basically? Sorry for the vernacular, but I'm just curious as to whether or not you've had any fallout or how people have responded to developing more formal systems. Is that a fair question?
I've been probably the most paranoid about my systems and processes. I would say if I could go back and do it the way I should have. I would have documented every system and process for every role before I hired them. But when I hired them, they came in and I had to figure it out, and I think that's the wrong way. So if you can tell anyone, document it now, write it down, it's going to save you the long run. As soon as you start hiring people, you won't have time. It gets harder and harder. You're going to end up hiring an expensive operations person who's going to come in and do it for you, and that's the price I can tell you. For us, I would tell you that there was challenges. You know, people coming into a role, no defined processes and systems for the most part, and that's where you've got to scramble and figure out how to get it done. So that's my list.
I'm really transparent with our team. I share with them so many details, and most of them come up and say to me, I gotta work in a place where I get to see the numbers and what's going on. And I'm also very vulnerable in front of them. I tell them all the time, I've never had a team this large, I've never run a business this large, I need your help. If you see me not doing something wrong, come tell me. You know, like, I'm not that smart, I'm just not that dumb. So, it's a big difference. But ultimately, the irony is your question, we just dealt with this yesterday, and as we're now in the fourth quarter, we were putting on our push to get to the end of the year and trying to meet all our goals. And they see where we're at and what our projection is and how we're going to close the delta that we have. And I keep reminding them what we have done to get to this point isn't going to actually get us to the point we're trying to go. And so for that, we need to think outside the box. We need to stay innovative. We need to also embrace change. And that's in our culture. Like, we're trying to take an industry that's 100 years old that has used pen and paper and get them to use a tablet. It's like almost impossible. And if we're not willing to change, how are we going to, encourage them to change? Unlike Dara, we are trying to conquer the world. We would love to have every shop using our technology. So, it's also relative that those are the kids we're swinging for. We'll take the single and the double and get the runs, but we want grand slams. And the strategy is, how do we put them all together and execute on them right, measure, and then maybe understand where the shortcoming was, where the win was, the 80-20 rule. Right? We constantly do a SWOT analysis on 80-20. What is really yielding 80% of the rewards? Let's do more of that and less of the stuff that's not. And it's not easy. It really isn't easy, but if you promote it, if you ask them to embrace it, if you share with them why you want them to embrace it, it's the right team. It's going to happen.
I'm just going to add something. Like, to add to what you just mentioned, is that I think most people think that growing a business is sales, which it is, but the business won't grow unless you get the systems and processes in. It's the fact of the matter. Like, the business is going to have scalability problems, and that's why most of the time is worried about it. I actually went to Trajectify, which was Mike's recent event, and one piece of advice I got given, which I've already implemented, was to have micro department days where each specific department have one full day. I've done it every quarter, where they work on specific systems and processes for one full day. And the idea there is to optimize that department every quarter, learn what they've done every 90 days, and then get ready for the next 90 days. So that's something we already did, it's working, so.
That's a huge thing for Delegate Validate. Have them participate in the solution, and then they own it. Right? So then you say, well, this was your idea.
I'm sure there's lots more questions, but I want to give you guys a chance to network and have one-on-one conversations. So let's start to wrap it up with I put you guys on the spot for a kind of little rapid fire of, like, I don't know, a lesson learned that you wish you knew years ago, or that you want someone here who's contemplating, building a business or growing a business. What's that one piece of advice that you wanted to have, or you want to give to someone?
Do something you love.
Yeah, believe in the product or the sale or whatever you're selling. If you don't believe in it, you can't really sell it to anyone. And leave enough I turn it off, and it's not easy. And I turned it off from the first day I opened my business. It's a joke in the house. The phone would ring at 6 p.m. Don't touch it. We're closed. What do you mean you're closed? You opened a week ago. I know, but I can't let them know this. And I still follow that religiously, and it keeps my sanity, so that's really important.
I would say just be aware that things take time. I think that was one of the biggest things that I had a hard time understanding. I wanted things to go quickly. I think if you can mentally tell yourself that things will take time and they'll eventually work out in the long run, I think that'll help you with your sanity, because I think we do go insane sometimes, and it gets to the point. So just realize things take time, and you believe in it from day one, but eventually it will be what you want it to be when it gets to where it is.
If you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're right.
That's very deep. I have to I'm going to think about that as I'm driving around today. So I've been certified at TAP since July. Been working on it since August. And the thing I love about the program is imagine being forced to be locked up in a room with people like this every month. And I'm sure you guys can speak to your experiences of your own boards. Mike, Orna, Dara, Adam, thank you very much. This was illuminating. I really appreciate
it. So I want to thank Mike for facilitating the panel. You can stay as long as you want. We have more drinks over there. We have a nice crowd here. So stay as long as you want. If you leave, please sign please fill the evaluation form for us. We always like to improve what we are doing. Tell us if it was a good event for you. If you have any suggestions, we'll be happy to hear. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you
Great round of applause. Great, thank you guys.